This method can potentially have you going from 5s to 8s and 9s. And the most important thing about doing past papers is this. If you don't do this, then there's no point of doing past papers. This could actually be more crucial than your revision. This could make more of an impact on your grades than your revision. If you're watching this, then you have about 1 week until your exams start. You're probably thinking there's not that much you can do, like your fate is sealed. If you haven't started revising now, that's it. Wrong. Listen to me here. Here's how you can change your cards and get an amazing grade in only 1 week. I'm not going to tell you lies and tell you that you can easily cram 10 GCSEs in the space of 1 week, but you can sure do a lot better than you would have if you didn't revise in this week. And here is how. So in this video, I'm going to be showing you how to cut your losses, how to do effective cramming, how to enhance your past papers so that you can do a lot more past papers in the 1 week that you have, and also how to master your exam technique, because your exam technique can almost be as important as your revision. If you don't know how to tackle the question, then it will be hard to get a good grade. Anyways, let's jump straight in. I know you guys don't have too much time, so be sure to like, comment and subscribe, and let's get started. So now let's talk about how to cut your losses. With 7 days or less to the exam, you have to be realistic. You can't be setting yourself mountains and mountains of work and expect all of it to happen. It's not going to happen. The thing you have to understand is that you can't cover everything in immense detail. You want to get a surface level understanding of everything instead. This is so that in an ideal world, you'll be able to tackle each question. Even if you just write one sentence, it's better than if you didn't understand the topic at all and you couldn't put anything. If you leave a question blank, you are losing all marks. There's no chance that you'll get any marks in that question, and that severely decreases your chances of getting a good grade. So with less than 1 week to go, you have to cut your losses. And what that means is you have to realize that every topic has a different priority and you can't go over everything. This means not giving each topic 100%. You do the topics that you're most scared of, that you're most scared of coming up in the exam. These are the topics that you're thinking about and you're thinking, oh, I really hope that doesn't come up. These topics are probably going to come up. You need to make sure that you're confident in them before the exam. If you're that scared of the topic, then it's a sign that you need to work on it more. And it's really important that you don't walk into the exam with this attitude that you're really scared of this exam, you're really scared of the topics that are going to come up, because honestly, it's just going to throw your confidence. As soon as you see a question of the topic, you're going to feel regretful, so make sure that you go through these topics. For example, I had a poem that I despised analyzing. Like, it wasn't a bad poem, I just didn't like to analyze it, and I was like, it's not gonna come up, it's not gonna come up. Guess what? It came up. So guys, don't leave anything to chance, because the likelihood is that the topics that you don't like the most are the ones that are gonna come up. What I would recommend is write a list of the topics that you have to cover. Like when you're doing your past papers, when you're doing your questions and you're losing a lot of marks and you see the topics which are constantly getting you these low grades, then you need to cover those. Put them in a list in order of priority, so in order of how bad and how scared you've been doing in these topics, and these are the topics that you have to cover in this week before your exam. Whether it's doing past papers, whether it's doing questions, whether it's flirting, you need to cover these topics before the exam if you want to feel confident. For example, let's say in biology, I've really been struggling with ecology and these questions have really been getting me down. I don't get marks in them. I would definitely be sure to make sure that I do this right before the exam in this 1 week that I have. Hey guys, it's Shona from the future, and I've got to tell you about this new productivity app. So introducing Squintle. Squintle is a new productivity note-taking app which basically helps you to brainstorm, develop ideas, and then create order. If you find that you're like me and your brain runs at like 100 miles per hour, this is the perfect app for you. With Squintle, you can go from chaos to order with just a click of a button. So when you open Squintle, you basically get this virtual desk, which is basically your overview of everything that you have. And think of this as your actual desk, except this desk doesn't have to get messy. You can basically brainstorm different topics on different cards and link them together in a way that you can link different thoughts together, you can link different concepts together, and it's honestly an amazing platform to have an overview of something. So let's say you have a really big topic and you want to go into depth for everything, but you also want to have an overview of everything. This is basically the perfect app because you can basically make yourself a little board, all of the different topics combined. You can add videos, you can add hashtags so you can find specific cards easily. It basically just gives you quick and easy access to all of your notes at once. This is honestly a really cool and upcoming website for anyone who is creative, who is studying, anything at all. It basically just makes your life easier and it helps you to organize everything. This is probably one of the most unique features that it has. A lot of note-taking apps tend to make things separate from each other, so it can be really hard to see where the topics link together, and it can also be hard to link these in the exam. So Squintle basically allows you to have this unique overview and access to all of your notes at once, which can be really helpful for when you're revising just for an exam. And you can basically use Squintle for anything you want. If you're creative and you have a YouTube channel, you can plan your videos on there, you can brainstorm ideas. It's honestly an amazing platform. So guys, be sure to check it out and use the link in my description for 50% off, and definitely definitely give the website a look because it's honestly something that could improve everyone's productivity. Now let's talk about the effective cramming method. So this is a special method that you can use to cram for your GCSEs in 1 week. This method can potentially have you going from 5s to 8s and 9s. So what I recommend you do is I recommend that you look through all of the past papers from all of the years, even going back to the legacy papers. These are the papers that were not graded from 9 to 1. They were graded in A stars, Bs, for example, and these run back to like 2000s, 2001. These are really good because at the end of the day, the subject is always going to be the same. There might be slight differences in the specification, but the questions that always come up are more likely to come up in the exam again. And GCSEs is honestly just a game of practice, a game of looking at what came up in previous years and just making sure you're confident in those, because they're probably going to assess on those same topics just in a different way. So if the topics that are coming up are topics that you can answer well and topics that you've been doing good in, then you can leave these alone. But if the topics are topics that you know you're not doing good in, and make sure that you add it at the top of your list, because this is really important that you get confident in these for the exam. This will give you your ultimate list of must-do questions that you have to do before the exam. For these questions, if you don't understand them, then you need to go back to understanding the content. This means watching videos, looking at diagrams, looking at different explanations online, and maybe even go through exam walkthroughs so that you can understand how to answer the question in the future. And if you really don't understand it, like it's taking you hours upon hours to understand the concept, then I feel like especially 1 week before, it's acceptable to cram it just to memorize it. This is ideal because you're not going to understand the topic, and if they ask you to apply this knowledge in a different way, you're not going to be able to. But as a last resort, cramming at this point, just memorizing it solely for what it is going to help you in the exam more than you spending hours upon hours to actually understand it. You can do this through writing it over and over, repeating it out loud, testing your friends, different methods that you do to cram. The most effective ones which are good for you, do those and just really try to cram it before the exam. This is not ideal because you can't cram too much at the same time. You can't cram for like 7 exams at the same time. Your brain's not going to be able to handle it and you're going to forget stuff. But as a last resort, this is what you can do. Another thing you can do is my method of the lazy man flashcards. So this is basically a method that I've explained in many videos, but I'm just going to summarize it quickly. Rather than making actual flashcards where you do a question on the front and the answer on the back, you can basically make a long Word document of the different points in the specifications as questions. So you phrase them as questions and the answers will be in your notes or will be in your textbook. So once you do the flashcard and once you answer the question, if you want to check back in your notes for the answer, then you have to do that. And that extra work that you have to do will reinforce this information in your mind and make it more likely that you'll cram it and memorize it before the exam. This is basically called the path of least resistance. Your brain wants to do the thing that is easiest for it. Now let's move on to how you can enhance your past papers. So as you guys know, if you've been watching my videos for a long time, you should know that past papers are the most effective way to revise for your GCSEs. Past papers are basically training you to be able to answer the questions. It's also increasing your exposure to different types of questions, and this makes it more likely that you'll do amazing in your exams. And this honestly should be the main, if not the only, source of revision you should be doing these days, because 1 week before is not the time to start making notes. It's the time to start getting exam papers done and try to do as many papers that you can. If you don't know the content at this point, you can actually learn it through the past papers. You can learn it from the mark schemes, and then you can watch videos if you need to understand it further. But don't waste time watching videos on every single topic or watching those really long 2-hour, 3-hour paper 1 topic videos, because honestly it may seem like you're doing something, but it's all gonna fly past your head and you don't get to target the topics that you're worst at. I really recommend that you stay away from these really long videos and rather do a past paper instead, because that will be more effective. So as you guys know, you don't have a lot of time. You have like 1 week, so it can be hard to do past papers for multiple subjects at the same time. So when you're doing a past paper and you know the answer to a question, don't write it down, just skip it. Say it in your head and check it in the mark scheme. Use that as a kind of flashcard, and if you did it wrong or you did it slightly wrong, then just keep flipping back and forth until you memorize the answer correctly. So this leaves you more time to do the questions that you actually don't know how to do or you're less confident in. This is essentially what you should be doing 1 week before the exam. Just focusing on the questions you don't really understand, you're not really confident, because you just want to master your weaknesses and make sure that you're ready for the exam. And the most important thing about doing past papers is this: if you don't do this, then there's no point of doing past papers. You need to mark them. You need to focus on marking them. Doing them is all well and good, but marking them is even more important. That's where you see where you did wrong. Even if you understand the topic, you may not have got the full marks because you didn't answer it correctly, and this is the perfect time to learn how to answer the questions according to the mark scheme in order for you to get the full marks in the question. As well as this, if you don't mark your mistakes now and you don't learn from your mistakes now, you're going to make the same mistakes in your exam and you're not going to be happy when you do that. So honestly, focus on your mistakes the most. If you got a question right, fair enough, good, that's fine. Tick it, move on. This is definitely the time to really focus and hone in on where you're losing those marks so you prevent yourself from doing it in the future. Do not do a past paper and not get anything from it. Every single past paper paper should be a step towards you getting an amazing grade. You should always get at least one thing from a past paper, whether it's to write the units more, whether it's to show your full working out, whether it's a certain mistake that you make, whether it's a lack of keywords. Every single paper should show you one thing that you need to improve before the exam. That's the whole point of doing past papers. So finally, let's move on to how to master your exam technique, because this could actually be more crucial than your revision. This could make more of an impact on your grades than your revision, and that is crazy to think about. If you're struggling with timing, letting go of questions you don't understand, just being able to answer the questions according to the mark scheme, this is the time that you need to fix that. This is the last chance that you have to fix that. Exams are not all about revising. Exams are not all about cramming and studying and doing all these good things. These are good for you in terms of content, but if you have all that content in your brain and you don't know how to answer the question, then that is literally it for you. You need to make sure that your exam technique is good. You need to make sure that it's great and it's really efficient in terms of timing, in terms of letting go of questions, in terms of answering the questions correctly. You need to make sure you've mastered that before the exam. And what better way to do this except from doing past papers? Do these in time conditions, do these in exam conditions, and try to have all of your stuff ready. So you have your calculator, you have your pen, you have your ruler, everything ready so that you have no excuse to have distractions or to get up from your seat. If you particularly struggle with time, I would recommend giving yourself slightly less time than you'd have in the exam, and then this really allows you to have a good time constraint, and hopefully by the exam you should feel comfortable in the time that they give you to finish the paper. Also, you need to start getting into the habit of letting go of questions. I know it's really disheartening when you see a question, you don't know how to answer it or you don't understand it, but do not dwell on that question. You need to move on. As soon as you read the question, you should know in about 30 seconds whether you'll be able to answer this question or not right now. If you can't answer it, fold the paper, move on, answer the other questions, and then come back to it. At the end of the day, the exam is based on how much marks you can get overall, not based on whether you can answer the harder questions or not. If you answer all of the easy questions and you leave the hard question, even if you don't come back to that question, you'll get a lot more marks than you would have if you just stayed on that question. So right now, in this 1 week where you're doing your past papers, if you don't understand a question, move on and come back to it later. Try to practice that from now on. Another thing that people don't tell you is that you need to get used to the exam hall. If you haven't been in the exam hall before or you haven't been in the room, try to get an opportunity to go in the room before your exam. The exam hall can be a really stressful, anxiety-inducing place for some people. You need to get used to it. If you've been doing your mocks in there, that's great. If you haven't, go into the room at least 1 week before your exam and just get used to it. Just understand that this is just another standard room in your school. It's nothing different, it's nothing scary. The more you get used to it now, the better, because anxiety can really act as an enemy of progress and it can really affect your grade. So you want to make sure that you're as calm as possible when entering the exam hall. Just know that you won't be in there forever. It's just a few hours a day, and by the end of your exam season, you're going to have a long holiday where you get to enjoy yourself and you can sleep the whole holiday away if you want to. So just have that in mind, and best of luck for your exam, guys. You've got this. So those are my tips on what to do 1 week before your exam. I really hope it helped, and if it did, be sure to like, comment and subscribe, as well as share this with friends and family. And if you need any subject specific advice, then be sure to check out my playlist, because it's really helpful and it'll really give you some in-depth advice and tips into most GCSE subjects that there are. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.